call to order the meeting of the Board of Commissioners for September the 21st, 2009. And at this time, I'd ask everybody to stand for the presentation of colors from the Air Force Junior ROTC from J.M. Robinson High School.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets reckless, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time I call for the invocation. I call on Commissioner Cabarrus.
May we pray. Our dear Lord, Creator God, you ordained government among men to maintain order in a civil society. Lord, you have put each one of us on this board in this place this evening to administer the ordinances and laws of this state, listen to the voices of the people of this county in determining the best course of action for maintaining the quality of life in this community. I pray that you'd give us wisdom tonight, you'd give us courage, you'd give us the need, Lord, the power, Lord, to speak what we believe and to voice our opinions, but also to deliberate, to vote, and to accept, Lord, the actions of this board this evening. Guide and lead us and direct our paths as we discuss the business of this community. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Now, if the junior ROTC would come forward, tell us your name and a little bit about yourself, and when you finish, if you'll go see Commissioner Poole, she has a pen for you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cadet Second Lieutenant Chris Ramsey. I am a junior at J.M. Robinson, and this is my third year of ROTC. I'm currently the Assistant Flight Commander of B Flight, and I also run cross country.
Thank you.
Afternoon. I'm Cadet William Witt, Staff Sergeant. It's my second year in ROTC, sophomore. I'm currently the stand valve for Bravo Flight, and I also run cross country. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Cadet Kristen Randall, Staff Sergeant. I'm currently logistics for Bravo Flight, and I'm a sophomore at J.M. Robinson.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Cadet Billy Randall. I'm a Staff Sergeant. This is my second year in ROTC. I'm an active member of the drill team, and I'm Assistant Commander on Color Guard.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Cadet Ronald Teeter. I'm a Master Sergeant. This is my third year in ROTC. I'm an active member in the drill team, and I'm also the Flight Sergeant for Bravo Flight.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Cadet Maya Jones. I am a Staff Sergeant, and I'm currently in reserve status in ROTC. I'm a sophomore, and I am a AS2.
Thank you. Well, it's the first time we've had the national anthem sung, and it was a very good job, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention and letting us enjoy it. Thank you very much. We have before us the minutes and a technical correction to the July the 21st minute. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. The next matter we have is the approval of the agenda, and I call everyone's attention to new business, library one book, one community resolution, new business discussion of the MPO priority project list, and a closed session. Is there any other additions or amendments to the agenda as presented?
Nope, so I move we approve the agenda.
We have a motion to approve the
Second
agenda with the additions. Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Next matter we have is recognitions and presentations on page 42. At this point in time, I would call on Mr. Lapsley and Mrs. Sossman.
Thank you. Good evening. Last time we met, Commissioner Minot asked if we would come back and make a presentation for you. She had asked for it to be in PowerPoint form, and when I came back to Pam, I apologize, Pam Sossman from our office is our marketing manager and does a great job with all of our external communications, and quite frankly, she is a major reason for us receiving the Prime Site Award. When I told Pam that we needed to put together PowerPoint based upon the document I showed you 2 weeks ago, she asked instead if we could use our new format that she has been working on with the county folks, with Marcy Jones, in which we take video clips and we embed them either in our newsletters or our web page. And for the Jake Owens concert last week, she actually made a little video with his music, his face, and then some graphics that came up telling all of our Insider Club members. We emailed this to them, and they clicked on it, and it came up and it said, hey, the Jake Owens concert's on Monday night. She did a great job with it. So I've asked her to do it again. Go ahead and do it. Let me get the volume on. Come with me, baby. We got things In addition to this, we wanted to let you know that this week at the fair, our food and beverage department entered 5 different categories. We won 3 second places, so we're very happy with it.
Any questions for Mr. Lapsley?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I did ask that you come today and present because I was amazed when you were at our work session, just to all the things that are going on there, and I thought the public, through this program, watching it should know that we just have so many things going on out there. So tell them what is the best place, website or whatever, to get the information that they would like to have about what's coming up in the next weeks and months.
The very best place to get information about what's going on is to have us contact you directly, and the way to do that is to go to our website and sign up for the Insider Club. Insider Club is a weekly or semi-weekly news letter that comes out. Pam produces this for us. And it's really neat because a lot of our promoters and our clients will give us things that we can raffle off for our Insider Clubs. A lot of time it's free tickets or it's food and beverage coupons. So if they sign up at cabarrusarena.com for the Insider Club, they will get an email from Pam once a week or every other week, letting them know what's going on and giving them the opportunity to get tickets ahead of time or get specials from us.
And there's also, I thought it showed about $106,000 was given back to different nonprofit organizations in the county.
We use nonprofits to do a myriad of things. This week we had nonprofits working in the parking lot and doing trash removal for the fair. We use them quite a lot for our food and beverage operations or some of our ushering duties. We use them quite a bit, and it's worked out. It's been a true win-win for us because they provide us with a quick and stable employment or folks who can come in and work. And we're also able to give them back something that helps their groups out too. And as you can see, it's been over $106,000 just since we've started doing it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much. Congratulations. Next matter that we have no cards, is that correct, Mrs. Honeycutt, for informal public comments? Under E, Thank you. Mrs. Stillwell, if you will please come up, tell us your name and your address, please.
Chairman, members of the board, I'm Bonnie Stillwell. I live in Afton Village. And I had a wonderful time at the fair this year, and I had a great time last year as well. And one of those individuals that I had a conversation with last year was our chairman, Mr. White. I asked him, would he please look into the necessity to put a stoplight at the entrance to Afton Village, where there's Primrose School, there's the YMCA, and there are numerous students coming and going. I asked for this a year ago, and he told me that he would get back with me, folks, but I have not heard. We are in desperate need because the traffic is so increased because of the Afton Ridge Shopping Center and the increase in traffic on Poplar Tent. This is a growing subdivision, but it's becoming more and more difficult. As you know, being a member of the board of the YMCA, you know how difficult it is to come and go out of Afton Village. And so I am respectfully requesting that you take this issue up with the Transportation Committee and take it under advisement in your executive session. We can't wait. I don't want to see a school bus hit. I don't want to see any biker or walker hit. It's 4 lanes of traffic, and there's a light that went in very quickly, actually 2 lights in front of Afton Ridge. They had no problem getting their light to the shopping center, but we don't have one in Afton Village, and Afton Village has been there 10 years. So it's time to take a proactive stand on this and protect those that live in the village as well as those who go to the Y and to Primrose School. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Stillwell. Under old business, which is E1, is the Economic Development Grant request for the Creamery Concord LLC, which is on page 44. Not see Mrs. Wilson in the audience. This is before us in regards to, it was actually tabled from, I believe, last month as it relates to the creamery. And Mr. Morrison, would you like to talk briefly about it? Let us know more about what's going on at the creamery, if you don't mind.
I'm Harris Morrison, and I'm here on behalf of the Old Creamery. And I would appreciate your consideration as you consider a vote on the tax grants for this project. I think it is a vitally important project for our downtown and for the smart growth that we're trying to embrace. And I believe that this project will be good for the community. And I would be happy to answer any specific questions you might have. It will, I'm sure, generate jobs. It will bring businesses to this community and to this part of downtown. And I think it will be a great economic driver. And it will have an office component to it as well as a retail component. And if you all have any specific questions beyond that, I'd be happy to answer those.
The renovation project's about 38,000 square feet.
That is correct.
And the cost of the renovation's about $3.7 million.
The $3.6 million is the request. We project that it'll be more than that, but we wanted to be conservative on the way that we projected. So.
And part of that is cleaning up some of the soils or the land and all?
A portion of it, a small portion of it. A lot of it is just putting the building back into service. It had stood for about 10 years vacant, and the roofs were rotten and caving in. The windows were broken. There were people hanging out there that weren't paying rent, and we thought that
hanging out there?
and we thought that this being the gateway to our community, it should be fixed up. And so I'm representing my family primarily, who are the investors in this operation, and we have a vested interest in our community, and we want to see it better. We want to see the downtown part of our community prosper. We want to see development in the urban core rather than out in the faraway places in the green fields. Yes, it did have some contaminated parts and some underground storage tanks, but we're working through that, and a tax grant will help us to bring the market rent kind of more in line where people will pay the rent to actually come in. So it will be the extra boost that helps us to lift this project off the ground.
And if I'm not mistaken, isn't part of the grant that does not get passed on? If a company comes in, they don't get a grant on, they do not get a grant on top of what's already being given. Y'all receive the grant.
That is correct, and the way that we look at that is that enables us to charge a lower rent and induce the tenant or the company that comes in to come to be a tenant in our place.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is a wonderful project, and I agree 1,000% with what you're trying to do, and the fact that we need to renovate and rejuvenate our downtowns rather than continuing to sprawl. Do you have any idea at this time, you say offices and retail, do you have any handle on, maybe how many stores there would be, how many offices there would be? One of the issues that we do look at is employment as well.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your plans in that area?
Well, we have designed it, Ms. Minot, with flexibility in mind, and at this point in time, we have several tenants who are very interested in coming to our building. We also have just received a request for proposal today for a very large office user that would be between 10 and 30,000 square feet, medically related. So we are encouraged that we are in a position to even be able to consider a proposal or a request for a proposal such as that. Other users range from, there actually is another medical related user that is very interested. There is a sandwich coffee shop that is interested, and then several other smaller office users that are in the 1,000 square foot range. I would venture, it's very difficult to say how many jobs that will translate to, but it's usually 2 to 4 jobs per 1,000 square feet of office. And so I would venture to say somewhere in the 50 to 100 jobs potentially created, and possibly more, depending on how much of that actually becomes office.
Any other questions?
I got one. I noticed you've already done considerable renovation. What else you plan to do other than what's been done?
Well, it's amazing how good some landscaping will help the curb appeal. There's been a lot done to the landscaping and to the outside, but on the inside we have we still have a good bit more to do. Everything from putting in elevator to putting in lights and finishing off the corridors. I would say that we have probably at least $2 to $3 million worth of additional work that needs to be done to build that space out to make it ready for tenants. We're looking at considerable upfit improvements for each tenant that would come in, and the space is still in very raw condition. It's not heated, it's not lighted, and so there's a good bit of money to be spent to make it tenant ready.
Would you say that the recipient of this grant is contingent on whether or not you complete the renovation of that building?
I would say it is very, very important, and I think that's the best way to say it. I would say that if this does not come through, it could very well jeopardize. Well, I would say it's just very important that it be done.
In other words, if you do not get this grant, you're going to have to curtail continuing renovation. Is that what you're saying?
It's possible, but I can't really say with clarity and with certainty. I don't want to lose the momentum that we have there, and so it's a very fine line that we walk.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve the development grant for the Creamery Concord LLC pursuant to the revised economic development grant program, and authorize the county manager to execute the agreement subject to review and or revisions by the county attorney. We have a motion. We have a second. We have some discussion. Commissioner Privet.
Mr. Chairman, number one of the conditions of receiving a grant that as the eligibility guidelines read it, that the applicant must demonstrate to the satisfaction of the board that it would not construct these facilities but for the reward of a grant. So it appears that they're going ahead, already started the renovation, and it appears that they will continue to do the renovation. But my real reservation on this project is that we've had other renovations to occur in this county, and the developers have not come wanting taxpayers' subsidy in order to do it. Lock Mill's a good illustration. Developer of that property spent a ton of money in order to make that a usable facility, Gibson Mill, Jock Lyles has spent a ton of money and an excellent renovation of that property, and Mr. Lyles didn't come before this board wanting taxpayer subsidy for the development of that property. And then just right down the street below the creamery is Kimbrell Furniture. They went into the old hosiery mill there, and I don't know how much money they spent on that facility in order to make it a excellent commercial business. And they did not come to the county wanting county taxpayer subsidy in order to do that redevelopment. And then the other day I was at a meeting at Troutman's Barbecue and curious about that was the old Harris Teeter building, and they spent a ton of money renovating that building and have done an excellent job in transforming that into a restaurant. And that family did not come here wanting taxpayer subsidy for that. So I think we're opening up a keg of nails if we approve this grant for this one. Any other renovation projects that's going to be forthcoming, they're going to come right before this board and say that you've done it for the creamery. Why can't you do it for me? And that's the real reservation I have in opposing this proposal before us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Privet. Commissioner Minot.
I don't know about all of the projects that Commissioner Privet was referring to, but I do know that Lock Mill, I believe, got federal funding. I have stated before that I would like for our board at some session to have a discussion about our incentive program and look at it again and see the fine points of it. But this is certainly a trend in our country to renovate and redo existing structures, particularly those that have some sort of historic connotation for the community, and the Cabarrus Creamery certainly fits that bill. And I also think I'm a strong proponent of helping our local businesses, people who have lived here, who are invested in this community and have been invested in this community, in encouraging them to do the type of thing that the Morrison family is trying to do. So often we deal with people who are from elsewhere, which is fine. We want those folks too. But I do feel very strongly that we need to encourage more investment by the people who have made this community what it is. And so while I see your point, Mr. Privet, I think that just because we haven't done it in the past doesn't mean we shouldn't begin it. And I think that we should begin it, and I think we should look at our parameters in the future and make them perhaps a little more understandable and a little clearer. But I think this project is an excellent project.
Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, just to add a couple of things, and I think that you may have already touched on that, and I understand Mr. Privet saying is a valid concern to be concerned about where we use our tax dollars, invest our tax dollars. I know a couple of years ago we had before this board the request for a new development that was fairly remotely located in the county, and we voted as a board to oppose that because of the extension of water and sewer lines, the investment of infrastructure would have to be made. All that's taxpayer money that's put into infrastructure investment. And when you have a development such as this inside city limits or close to an urbanized area, you already have water and sewer available at the site. You don't have to run water and sewer lines. It provides tax value, again, to the community. And I think I've heard Mr. Morrison say that this is going to allow him to get some competitive rental rates so he can attract tenants in there. And it does. I mean, that area of town, I've lived here for 14 years, and that has been my neighborhood, pretty much that area, and I've watched it go up and down, up and down, up and down. And I'm sure that probably, and I'm glad we had a chance to go back and review our program at our work session this past couple months, where we looked at how do we encourage the infill and the reuse of some of these buildings and provide incentives. I think that I'm been an advocate of even extending that to residential, if we can do it. That would provide for a way to encourage and give incentive to people to invest in older residential properties and reuse those residential properties, because it helps to prevent, as we talked about, the sprawl from occurring out into the open areas of our community, which we all want to see, that managed better. So, that's pretty much my comments.
Thank you. Well, I certainly applaud the Morrison's effort in regards to this, because I look at it as a smaller version of Eastland Mall. And we read about it in the paper where now the city of Charlotte is buying Eastland Mall and trying to renovate it, trying to keep it from bringing down an area. This is an opportunity for a local family to put an anchor into the ground and to help that which is around it become better. And for that, I applaud y'all. We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Next matter we have that's on the agenda is the consent agreement for the mills at Rocky River. It is my understanding that they would ask that to be tabled indefinitely, and unless anybody would like to ask any questions to nothing, then we will table it indefinitely. We have a motion to table.
Motion to table it indefinitely.
So moved, Mr.
We have a
Chairman.
motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have the consent agendas before us under F. We have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next matter we have, if you can either page down or go to page 320, which is under new business. It's Convention and Visitors Bureau Sports Complex. And at this point in time, I call on Mr. Mike Downs and Mr. Terry Crawford for presentation. Oh. Mr. Downs, you've gotten much dapper in your younger age.
Backing up.
Commissioners, thank you all for allowing us to be here tonight to present to you. I'm Terry Crawford, I'm the chairman of the board of Cabarrus County Tourism Authority, and to my left is Ms. Kate Parker. Kate heads up the sports sales area of the We're here to propose to the county a partnership between the Tourism Authority and the county for the development of a youth sports baseball, softball facility across from WW Flow Park, which is a parcel of land which I believe 60 acres is owned by the county. The Convention or Tourism Association, Tourism Authority would be seed money, will provide seed money to develop and build that complex at 10% of our revenues going forward. And the current budget, fiscal budget that we're in now, 2010, would be approximately $360,000 per year, which is probably ample money to develop and do what we want to do with that. Kate's the expert on all this stuff as far as building parks and that kind of thing, but I think our proposal is initially to go in, I don't know if you all plot that we have, but to build 2 pinwheels, which would be, I think, 5 parks or 5 ball fields each, at least to get it off the ground. Tourism is obviously a big part of Cabarrus County. With some of the other industries leaving our county, I still think we have a very big upside, in fact, with tourism in our county. One of those upsides is youth sports. One of the things that we need in order to continue to develop that, and Kate's ample sales abilities to continue to bring that into our county, is the facilities to do such. The CVB's really responsible for developing tourism in our county, and also the core responsibility is to sell hotel rooms. And I'm coming to you somewhat in that arena with my business. But one of the things that we think is recession-proof and will help continue to drive tourism is youth sports. And this facility will allow us to go out and attract some of the national tournaments, which we are not getting at this point just because of the facilities. We have great soccer fields. We have not very good baseball fields, is what it boils down to. And so we'd like to propose that partnership tonight before the board and make it go forward.
Are there any questions for Mr. Crawford or Mrs. Parker? Would you like to add anything to what Mr. Crawford said?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add, in 2007, we had about 20 amateur sporting events and on average per year, and now we're at about 80. And so we've made a lot of momentum in about 2.5 years, but to keep that momentum, we really need to bring things to the next level. And right now, we're really not competitive with other communities. We did a sports feasibility study about 1.5 years ago, and it said we're about 10 years behind the time. And just adding this tournament facility where we're bringing teams in from California that aren't necessarily playing on an elementary school softball field will make a remarkable difference and be a multi-million-dollar economic impact for our entire community.
Questions?
No questions to comment. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I was out at Frank Bliss Park a couple weekends ago, early on a Saturday morning, and it was really surprised me at 9 o'clock on Saturday morning. Of course, all the kids are out there playing soccer at the soccer complex, but then also there's a huge tournament going on at the softball fields out there. And, almost did not find a parking place at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning at Frank List Park because of the crowds that were out there. I was really amazed. So I'll make a motion that we approve this.
We have a motion, do we have a second? We have a second. Before we go into a vote, I do want to call on a couple of things. I think the location is extremely important to Cabarrus County. And the reason why I think it's very important is that it requires, or it doesn't require, but it encourages people to stay here in Cabarrus County. There is some land, obviously there's some land around our periphery on close to our edges that we could have looked at, but I think that in doing so, it allows the people that we're trying to attract to go and stay at other hotels or stay at other locations, which I think is counterproductive in what we're trying to do. Number two is, if memory serves me correctly, tourism dollars in Cabarrus County last year was about $288 million, which when you start putting a little bit, here and there, it adds up quickly for the county. So I think that tourism, through the efforts of the new director, Mrs. Carpenter, as well as Kate, and what you're doing is tremendous. And finally, the one last thing I want to talk about real quick is this weekend coming up, we have an international event coming into the county that people may not know about, is the duathlon. And there's about 700 athletes throughout the world that are going to be competing in a bike run event that's going to be out at the Speedway. And those 700 people will have an entourage of about 2,000, is it? So, if you see anything going on at Speedway, it's not a motor race, it's a foot race called Pit and Pat. That's great. Mr. Downs.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to add on too, this tract of land was donated to us by the Flo family. It's a 60-acre parcel, and then one of the requirements of the donation was it had to be Parks and Rec.
Good.
At this time, the county doesn't have plans nor funds to develop that, since we're concentrating on the southeast park and then hopefully going towards Mount Pleasant. But then this will allow the CVB, the contributions from the CVB, to go further in partnering with the county, because they won't have to go out and buy the land. Therefore, all of their contributions are going to go directly to construction.
Thank you. Well, my hat's off to y'all. Commissioner
I'd like to point out too, again, to the listening public, that this is not property tax money going toward these projects. This is coming from the CVB taxing and from our motels and hotels.
Right. We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you all. Motion carries. Next matter we have is G2, is the Cabarrus Health Alliance request to waive permitting, inspection, and demolition fees associated with construction of the new building for the Cabarrus Health Alliance. And this is found on page 337. And I do not see Mr. Phillips here, nor Dr. Pilkington. This was presented to us in our session in regards to their request to waive the inspection, permitting, and demolition fees associated with their new building. And the fees total about $29,000, and their request was as a result of the Health Alliance waiving fees, permitting fees, and waiving permitting fees, and I don't know if there's any other fees, but besides permitting for Camp Spencer, for the schools being constructed, as well as for some inoculations that were being given, for vaccines were given for either the Sheriff's Department and or EMS. It was told to us that EMS, they're not going to provide the inoculation after this year, but they will do it through this year. And then finally, there was a question as to why not just roll it into the cost, and what the discussion, predominant discussion, was that if we were to do anything on waiving it this time, that in the future everything is allocated both on their end and has always been allocated on our end, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Day? Okay. So, is there any other information that this board needs to make a decision tonight or make a motion tonight? Is there a motion to approve or deny the request of the Cabarrus Health Alliance to waive all inspection, permitting, and demolition fees associated with the construction of the Cabarrus Health Alliance new facility in Kannapolis? It is neither.
Let me get a little clarification. It's been 2 weeks since
Okay.
we had this discussion. It is my understanding that this is not, what they're asking for is not the usual way of doing is
What
that
the
correct?
usual way that it's been done in the past is that any fees that we have charged schools, we charge everybody, for whatever services that are provided by the county.
Right.
On the flip side of that, unbeknownst to me, and I won't say anything for staff, the Health Alliance has waived all fees in regards to any septic permit fees, any fees that the Health Alliance would normally collect from the county or from the school system. They would waive them, and that's to the tune of about $11,000 over the past 5 years.
That was for inoculations altogether. It looked like it was around $16,000.
Yeah, I'd ask, were you able to talk to anybody from the Health Alliance today?
I exchanged emails with Dr. Pilkington just to make sure that that was a complete list. I told him the possibility of reimbursement existed of those fees that have been paid in the past, or not paid in the past. And there was really no other comment to it other than that that was a complete list.
Yeah, I have something, to add to this. I don't think it's not quite related, Health Alliance, but it's not quite related to this issue at hand. I don't know whether you wanted to discuss it now. I just was also curious in this whole discussion. I know that we, this past year, have, just about every department and every function had some sort of budget reduction this past year. We reduced the rate that we were normally paying the Cabarrus Health Alliance as far as their funding is concerned. And I know that we kept some money, of course, back in sorry if I don't know exactly the dollar figure in our contingency funds this year, but I know that with the concern nationwide with the H1N1 and the swine flu, if they are going to need any additional funds in order to help them combat any potential outbreak, widespread outbreak. I know already some people in Cabarrus County that have contracted swine flu, but are we, do we need to look at that also with them in some way? If needing additional funds or...
Well, we haven't had a request for that. My understanding is that the federal government's providing the H1N1. I could be wrong on that, but certainly...
Maybe some additional staff and administrative stuff
But
related to that.
if there's a request, it would certainly be brought forward to the board for consideration. I should also point out that it's not just Cabarrus County that charges fees to other governmental agencies, but it's all the other governmental agencies that also charge fees to others. So, for example, we had a fire hydrant tested in the city of Concord recently for a development that is being contemplated for office buildings, and there was a fee for that we paid to the city of Concord. I think it was either $100 or $200. So, and any time that the county has sought a zoning change, there's a fee that goes along with that we've paid. So, certainly, the Health Alliance is, as far as I know, the county's never asked the Health Alliance to waive the fees. It's just been a practice that they had. I certainly think it would be more than, or fair, certainly, to reimburse the Health Alliance. If this is our policy, if we're going to continue the practice, then it certainly seems fair to reimburse the Health Alliance for the costs that it's incurred as a result of waiving fees to the county and the schools.
Well, I think that we should charge, and I think that we should reimburse. Part of business is to know exactly when you're paying for something, know exactly what you're paying for. And I appreciate them offering to waive and waiving in the past, but I think that it needs to be a business transaction, and there needs to be complete transparency in that business transaction, so that I think that we need to deny this request, but we need to reimburse for the things they've waived in the past, that we know now.
I would second your motion if that's your motion.
That's my motion. We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? and that would also include the appropriate budget amendment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Under 3 is the reservation of capacity for the Wexford Point Apartments. That is found on page 342.
Good evening.
Thank you, Mrs. Watts.
This is the reservation of capacity for the Wexford Point Apartments.
Can you speak up a little bit or have the thing a little bit closer?
It's
We're
high
hard to
as
hear
it'll
in that
go,
kid.
'cause I'm tall, probably the tallest person in here, next to Downs. Okay, maybe too tall. Okay, since the work session, we did revise the numbers for this reservation of capacity, and we used the 10th day enrollment numbers from September the 8th, so that's noted on the memo. There was still not, the capacity was still not there at the elementary and the middle school. So, this project is from Solstice Partners LLC, and it is a request for 106 multifamily units on approximately 8.73 acres. It's located off of Davidson Highway in Concord, North Carolina. There's currently a mobile home park there, currently located there now. This project is expected to produce approximately 16 elementary students, 6 middle school students, and 8 high school students, for a total of 30 students. The impacted schools are Wynkoff, Northwest Cabarrus, and Northwest Cabarrus Middle and Northwest Cabarrus High School. Based on the capital improvements plan adopted earlier this year, the additional seats that are indicated will be created as new schools come online. We expect that 300 seats will be added to Northwest Cabarrus Middle as the new Harold Winkler Middle School is completed and occupied sometime approximately in January or February of 2011, and that now that the Cox Mill High School is opened, as students are transferred due to redistricting, that eventually students from Northwest Cox Mill was constructed with capacity for approximately 1,450 new students. So, of course, that's not at capacity right now. And as of this September 8th date, they had 771 students enrolled at Cox Mill High School. But eventually, that 1,450, those seats will fill up. So, with that being said, with the revised memo, of course, still has what the ordinance requires as far as the phasing schedule and the mitigation payment, which has the calendar year 3 multifamily apartment units, and then 11 for 2010 through 2013, with the remaining 59 in 2014, and the mitigation payment of $4,153 per apartment unit payable prior to the issuance of building permitting. And at the work session, Ms. Kathy Connors, who is also here this evening, had spoken to you about her need to pull or purchase all 106 building permits at once and as early as December the 29th. And she was also proposing to pay, make the lump sum payment for all of those 106 units prior to the issuance of that first building permit. And so she submitted a letter, which you should have gotten with your agenda, where she outlines what her request is, and she would like to, if you had any specific questions for her, of course she would like to answer those, but she is here this evening to speak on her revised request. And if you had any questions about those tax credits and the specifics about her project.
Any questions for Mrs. Watts right now?
The question I have is now, from memory, on the apartments, multifamily housing, when we do these, what we're doing is we may issue the building permits, but the certificate of occupancy is what will not be released it's based on the phasing schedule, right?
Well,
Because you can't build, obviously, a part of a building, apartment building, until they build the...
that is an option that, some of the projects have been issued with. You know, I guess that would be an option you could consider. With Ms. Connors and I did, you know, discuss that. She is requesting that she be able to at least get all the building permits at one time. And I believe her letter goes into specifics about being able to, that she must receive all of the certificates of occupancy by December 31st, 2011, in order to receive the federal housing tax credits. Is that correct? So, and she could probably speak more specifically to whether or not, you know, if she could live without her COs until that time, if that's something you wanted to talk to her about.
Any other questions for Mrs. Watts at this time?
But you're correct. We can issue the building permit, and then they come back later to get the.
But you're saying the COs, you would like the COs to all be issued by December 31st, 2011 as well. So the building permit's issued by this December 31st, and then 2 years later. So the building schedule here would be, pretty much would be in effect then.
No, this build-out schedule that this first one
be...
would not be. No, sir. It would basically be the entire 106 by this December.
One more question, Mr. Chairman. Sure. And I believe we heard the number kicked around, I don't see it on here now, but didn't we not kick around that there was about 56 students that were going to be, I think the right word here, not misplaced, that's the wrong word, but would be, would have to move out of this development that is currently built.
Yes.
So, you know, not that they all would go to others, some would go, they would basically scatter to other schools in the community, and may not all, they, you know, so we would have a net loss of 26 students, not, I mean, theoretically. I mean, you obviously, some of those may come back to the new apartment complex.
There are currently, this is currently called the Farrington West Mobile Home Park, and there are currently 56 students that actually attend these respective schools. Wynkoff, Northwest Middle, and Northwest Cabarrus High School. So, you know, they're selling those mobile homes. You know, some of them will probably stay in the county, and, you know, some of them may not. They may just move to other local housing, or, you know, there's really no way to really know right now.
I'll refresh my memory on this one. It doesn't have to do with this particular project, but are there other projects that are slated for these same schools that have come to us before for this, I can't think of the term of it. Reservation, thank you. That are also impacting these schools, and if so, are those numbers reflected in these numbers? In other words, my understanding is they're in a queue, they're in a line, and so are developments prior to these included in these numbers?
The reservations of capacity that are currently in place are included.
Okay.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
some of them haven't been built out.
No, any committed development reservation.
It's committed, but it has not been built.
So like that negative 11 may, that assumes that everything's 100% built out at every one of those developments prior to that.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Where it shows that we're short 11 seats at Wynkoff Elementary, that's assuming that every development that approved prior to this for Wynkoff is going to be 100% built out. Those kids show up at Wynkoff Elementary, right?
Current available capacity is what is existing currently, and what we currently have students generated. And so, the planned capacity for 2 years and the planned capacity for 5 years is all the development that we have approved and any pending development.
That's what I'm saying, but it'd be 100%, it would be 100% built out. So, you know, this would be the worst case scenario.
I guess that's where my concern comes in right now. Because 2-3 years ago, yes, these were happening and they were occurring. But now we have so many developments that are idle or at even worse, bankrupt. And I know that the opportunity to develop goes with the land, but it does seem a little unfair to me to charge a fee to a current applicant and count into it somebody who may not show up for another 5 or 10 years.
Mr. Marshall, can you address that?
Excuse me, I do believe it's a valid concern. The difficulty for us is they are approved, they have vested rights, and in fact, this last session of the legislature extended those rights. So some of these that were expiring, and we were removing them from the inventory where we felt confident, not only were they not gonna build, but their approval had expired, we're having them add them back into that inventory and factor them into our calculations, because that's been extended at least until December 31st of 2010 by that legislation. So I think you're correct that what we're doing is, of course, we're running a calculation here. We're saying we know how much capacity we have, including what we're building, and we add in what we're building or what's planned that you've approved in your budget. But then we also look at how many students we have and how many we expect from development that's ongoing or has already been approved. But what's happened is a lot of those developments have gone fallow. But by our method, we have no way really to remove those because they have that legal right to build.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things, point out a couple of things. Looking at this, if we look at it simply from the standpoint of looking just at the numbers, then we would delay it past that as we pretty much the build-out schedule has done that. That's following the letter of our own APFO that we've developed in the process we've developed. And again, assuming like we've talked about, that's one issue, but the other issue is that, knowing that you theoretically you have a negative impact because you're actually going to be replacing 56 students in maximum with 30 students. And I guess I'm curious, so we have to ask our legal counsel on that situation. If we made an exception because, it's not like that this is something where it would just be financing would be things, but she's under a tax program and would not be able, the owners would not be able to take advantage of this tax program if we put them under the same build-out schedule that we would normally based on the fact there's inadequate seats. But it's almost like this is a one-off situation with this particular development because you're faced with that exception is that you're looking at, even though it's -11, that drives the build-out schedule the way it's set up, but is that -11 really going to be -11? And do we make it in light of the fact that they're going to lose these tax credits, these federal tax credits, and we're up against that wall? I don't know what we do if I hate to. Are we creating a legal quandary for ourselves if we do an exception in this situation?
Well, I think we create a legal quandary for ourselves if we're not consistent in the way that we look at this application along with the others that we've had in the past. Now, with reference to the adequate public facilities voluntary mitigation payments, the board typically has been consistent in requiring those unless it was a project that involved senior citizens where it was clear that there would be no impact on the schools. What you have done in the past with a number of different projects is be flexible on the phasing, and in some cases, and I can't recall which one in particular by name of project, but in some cases you have allowed people under certain circumstances to build out faster than what the numbers would have otherwise indicated. Jonathan may remember which ones.
I don't recall the names of some of those developments, but you have made some exceptions like that, and that's one of the reasons why we point out that there are existing students on this parcel, that certainly this is different from really most other projects that we bring before you, that I think offers you that, or at least I think is a reason that you may want to consider an exception. What we presented to you is simply what the ordinance prescribes, but at that point then it becomes, your review, and that flexibility becomes up to you based on the unique circumstances.
Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared myself. Looking in light of that, the fact, of not waiving the fee, but of waiving the build-out schedule that we have set up, in order for her to meet the deadlines on this tax credits, given the fact that they're going to be replaced, it's going to be a net, theoretically, again, a net reduction in the number of students, even though it shows it being over capacity. I think that you're going to, that's not going to be a factor in the situation, of pulling those things as far as of allowing her to build this thing out, and the company to build this thing out all, during this 2-year period. And certainly, I'm not, again, I'll be very careful in the way I word this, but not saying anything bad about, mobile homes, but I believe the apartment complex will hold its value much better than the mobile home community will, about, putting it as more permanent, seen as more permanent housing, and it's almost an infill type development. So my motion, I guess, would be that we approve the consent agreement with no build-out schedule in it, allow the owner to pull the permits in accordance with their tax schedule, but they would also pay the fees as they proposed in their letter.
And their proposal is that they would pay it before December 31st, 2009.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that's roughly $446,000, I believe. We have a motion, we have a second? We have a motion, we have a second. Commissioner Privet.
I notice in this report on adequacy determination, it points out adequate school capacity does not exist for this multifamily project at the elementary and middle schools. There's no plans whatsoever for additional elementary school space. In light of that, Mr. Chairman, I will have to vote no.
Thank you, Commissioner Privet. One thing I think is interesting that I was thinking about tonight is there's a proposed about at least 7 buildings, I believe, on this property. And I have no idea, I haven't spoken to Mrs. Connors about this, but I would imagine that it's going to increase the property, the real estate value, at least $5 million. And I'm being conservative, I believe. But $5 million at 63 cents per 100 adds a lot more to the tax base to provide for the schools on top of the $446,000. So, with that, I think it's a financial gain, and I think that they've done a great job in, and I understand, notifying the mobile home people that when they would like to start building, if this gets approved, so that people can make plans instead of having to scramble to find something. So I commend you on that regard. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. Next, we have the addition to the agenda, and it's G4. It's new business, the library One Book, One Community resolution, and it's on page 365. Mrs. Benshaw. Oh, thank you.
Good evening. Protocol established. On behalf of Dana Ewell, Library Director, and the staff of the Cabarrus County Public Library, we will present the One Book, One Community Cabarrus Reads. This year, we will explore and discuss and examine On Agate Hill by Lee Smith. The ideal is to encourage the community to get involved in reading. Chris Benshaw, our reference librarian, information specialist, young adult librarian, will bring you up to date on the schedule of activities and events.
Thanks, Joanne, and thanks Chairman White and Commissioners. I hope you all have a copy of our brochure of the One Book, One Community Cabarrus Reads effort. For those of you who haven't participated in a community read before, the idea is that you select a book and you create programs that tie in with the book and complement the book, and the effort, of course, is one that enhances and promotes literacy in your community. If you'd like, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about some of the programs we have. It's kind
Can you tell us about it?
I have a little something prepared. As Joanne said, this year's focus is a book by North Carolina author Lee Smith, On Agate Hill. If I were to characterize the main theme of this year's program, I'd say history would be the thread that runs through much of what we have planned. Lee wrote this book of historical fiction after almost a year of research, reading diaries, books, and letters from the time in North Carolina just after the Civil War, a very difficult time for many people. She shows us life at that time through the eyes of a young girl, Molly Petrie, and we stay with Molly as she matures, goes to school, then graduates, travels to the mountains of North Carolina to be a teacher, and eventually marries. Lee gives voice to many of the intriguing characters that we meet as we follow Molly as she matures. Naturally, in the course of all this, we learn a lot about the history and the time and the place as we go through this journey with Molly. We had very positive feedback from our community read project last year, so we wanted to build on some of those strengths. Again, we have book discussions at each branch library. These will be scholar-led discussions with Jane Armitage, a retired college professor, leading most of the sessions. As we did last year, we're having a musical program this year with Alice Gerard and her band. Alice's music is representative of the Appalachian and bluegrass tradition. Lee tells us that she listened to Alice Gerard as she was writing her book, and it helped inform some of her voices and characters and the tone that she took with the book. We're fortunate to have Lee Smith come and host a creative writing workshop at Rowan Cabarrus Community College. We did one of these last year with Clyde Edgerton. It was very well received, and RCCC is very happy to host it again this year. Lee will be at the Concord Library with reenactor Ernie Dollar to talk about her book and have Ernie share some historical information with the audience. We also have a theater piece as well, which is a one-woman show with musical accompaniment created by Barbara Bates Smith, and she will be highlighting pivotal points in Molly's life. We have highlighted local history as well by working with area museums. The Eastern Cabarrus Museum had a program showcasing its collection and tying in with the Community Read Project earlier this summer. The Concord Museum is hosting a program with displays of domestic wares and quilts and more from the Reconstruction period, with women from a local UDC chapter hosting the visitors and sharing some of their own family history from that time period. We have children's programs at each branch where children will have the opportunity to learn about aspects of life in the late 1800s. We have a trip to historic Hillsborough planned. Lee Smith actually lives in Hillsborough, and it's there that she met a lot of people who shared the area's history with her and started her off on a creative endeavor which resulted in her book. We have arranged for tours that will talk about the history right here in downtown Concord, and we're inviting people to come to our local history rooms at Kannapolis and Concord to explore their own family history and get help with family research. So again, the thread throughout this will be history, be it personal or family, local or regional. And we hope that the commissioners will accept our idea of a resolution to support this effort and to recognize Lee Smith. Thank you for your consideration.
The resolution before us is, whereas reading is a joy for all ages, which allows young and old to come together in discussion on a variety of topics. Whereas every community has special traits that makes it unique. These traits develop over time and are woven into the fabric of its citizens' daily lives. In many ways, our community defines who we are. Whereas every community comes together through shared history, shared knowledge, and shared experiences. As our community grows and changes, it can be more difficult to maintain and to honor the traits that are unique and special. Whereas one book, one community is one way to bring together each diverse individual in Cabarrus County to share and experience together the experience of reading the same novel. This collective experience not only encourages literacy, it also encourages dialogue and the expression of thoughts and ideas among individuals who may not otherwise find a connection. Whereas the Cabarrus County Public Library selected the month of October 2009 as the One Book, One Community Cabarrus Reads event. Whereas the Cabarrus County Public Library has selected On Agate Hill by Lee Smith for this year's One Book, One Community Cabarrus Reads event. Whereas the Cabarrus County Library, in celebration of the One Book, One Read community event, created several ways to come together and participate throughout October by meeting or working with the author Lee Smith at a creative writing workshop, book discussions, and many other events. Now, therefore, the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners declare the month of October 2009 as One Book, One Community Month, and Saturday, October 24th, as Lee Smith Day in Cabarrus County, and commend its observance to all citizens, adopted by the Board of Commissioners of Cabarrus County, North Carolina, this 21st day of September 2009.
I move for its adoption, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Commissioner Minot.
I just have one comment. You didn't mention your pie baking contest.
Well, I'm
And
gonna
I-
be there.
And I think you need the commissioners to be your judges.
Oh, well, you're,
I'd go along with that one. Come up for that.
I would like to, but.
I'm hoping my book club, we got this in the mail at home, so I know you've mailed this to some. I'm hoping my book club will pick this one. I love historical fiction, so, I'm looking forward to reading it too. So I hope that a lot of citizens will join together and read this.
We hope
Now, where is the book going to be? Now, you'll be able to come to the library and check out
Yes,
many
we have,
copies.
we
you know,
brought extra copies.
extra copies there to check out, or can you, will be able to even purchase the book at local bookstores, or?
I'm sure
Okay.
they'd be very happy to.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Mrs.
Well, thank
Benshaw,
you.
Mrs. Gresham.
Appreciate it very much.
That's right.
Y'all have a good evening. The next matter we have is G5, which is the discussion of MPO priority project list. The Cabarrus Rowan Urban Area Project List for Divisions 9 and 10 have been provided for review and discussion. Commissioner Carew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm passing this out to everyone. I've actually got also a list of the overall projects, and I guess start this out, there's been a lot of discussion recently about roads, and even more than we want to talk about, and how roads work in, North Carolina, how they don't work in North Carolina, may be a better way of saying that. And, I think it's important that we've kind of been a little separated from this, in the past, but the, NCDOT recently reorganized to, improve efficiency. They formed a strategic planning office of transportation, and it coordinating processes across the entire department, including developing priorities on road projects. And for those that don't know it, there's probably, I think, 13 separate highway divisions in the state of North Carolina. And in those 13 divisions, the transportation dollars are divided up, and each of those divisions gets to decide how it's going to spend money on highways, transit, airports, such. So, and even federal money that comes in is used to supplant that state money, so it always maintains it, as we call an equity formula. There's also a federal program called the MPO program, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Rowan and Cabarrus counties are in an MPO together. Mecklenburg and Union counties are in an MPO together. Because of that, and then the unfortunate thing is that Rowan County is in Highway Division 9, which is with Winston-Salem area. Cabarrus County is in Highway Division 10, which includes Mecklenburg and Union counties. So there's always this split planning that goes on. There's always these separate goals. There's the common goals the MPO develops, but they got to go to two different funding sources to get the highway funds. Anyway, proceeding on to that, this new spot office is putting together an updated transportation improvement program. And what you have before you is a listing of the highway projects that are going to be submitted by this MPO into the Division 10, which are the Cabarrus County projects. And there's a listing here, and I want to provide this for you. I want to quickly go over a couple of these and explain this. You have here a number on one side. On the left-hand column, the tip number means the project is already on the current list, and if there's a blank there, it means it's a new project that has not been funded. It's kind of as Jonathan Marshall told me a little bit ago, it's kind of our Christmas wish list for road improvement. If you will look on that list, the number one priority for this division for Cabarrus County continues to be widening of I-85, basically from the basic US 2949 split all the way to where it joins the current widened portion of the highway up at China Grove, going into Rowan County. The second priority is the George Liles Parkway extension from Weddington Road over to US 29, and then it goes on down from there. There's roads here for riding to Ryder Road. Also, fourth priority would be the North Carolina 73 widening all the way basically from it's in 4 phases, from basically all the way from US 29 near the Lowe's store all the way out to the county line is the number 4 project there on the list. And then as well as the widening of Poplar Tent Road, and it goes on down there. There's several projects on that list that pretty much we're looking at for long-term projects. And again, this is our wish list. This was put together. This is going to the NCDOT to see if it will be funded or not. I don't think there's no approval needed by our board for this. I'm the current delegate to the Transportation Advisory Committee for the MPO. We'll be meeting Wednesday night, and they'll be submitting this as their submission for the projects for the county. And I don't know if anybody had any on there that they saw that wished me to communicate maybe that we want to swap or move up in priority. A lot of these were submitted by municipalities within the county, so it's, you know. But if any comments anybody you have to make, you want to convey, Commissioner Minot, meeting Wednesday.
I have a comment. I noticed on the right-hand side under the request that every one of these have sidewalks, and it's kind of like the road to nowhere. I cannot imagine the cost of sidewalks on Highway 73 from Lowe's all the way up to wherever it was you said, nor the need for them. So, I mean, was that discussed?
It's the UDO for Concord, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if they're in the city limits of Concord or Kannapolis, it will require sidewalks. Any road built or improved.
Well, I guess we have money
We
to
learned
throw
there's
away, don't
the
we?
school board learned there's no exceptions to that with the garage.
Exactly. Well,
The
now,
garage as well as the arena event
some of
center.
these go into the county, though, don't they?
Yeah, some of these make up through the county.
Got a question for you, Commissioner Carew. As I see priority A1 is the widening from, 85 widening from 4929 to NC 73. Is the 4929, that's in Mecklenburg County?
It's Mecklenburg County. That's coming
It's
out.
already widened.
Yeah, they've already that project's partially done, so.
Just to complete that project.
Complete that project to Highway 73. And I believe I believe the project does call for it to even be expanded, even as we know, anybody that's driven north on 85 at certain times of the day realize that you have 485, 85, 8 lanes dumping into 2 lanes at the mall, and it creates a tremendous bottleneck right there at that intersection. I think that also includes adding another lane, and it's going to be 8 lanes all the way to Highway 73. I believe, if I remember correctly, that's what the original project was called for. I think it also includes in that the tie-in of the interchange for 485, I believe, is included in that.
I think that under number 3, U4910, to right a widening and improve from Poplar Tent to Concord Mills Boulevard, I think that's short-sighted. It needs to go all the way down to Mallard Creek Road.
And join the 485 interchange, eventually 485
Right,
interchange.
so I think it needs to be I think it needs to go all the way down to Mallard Creek, and I think it's Mallard Creek. I don't think it's Mallard Creek Church. I think it's Mallard Creek right there. Actually, I think that needs to be bumped up ahead of, I think that's good. That's the only comments that I have what I see right now. Any others? Commissioner Privet? Hopefully it's in my lifetime. But I don't think so.
Maybe your children.
They are young.
That brings up a good point, because I think that, in fact, the 73 project, in your head, does not have a tip number, so it's not been on the project list before. It's just now been added to the project list, and wish list. But I think it's a good point, because the citizens need to understand that this goes into the hopper in Raleigh, and, it may be, this goes through 2018. I mean, these are projects that probably a lot of these need to be done now, but we're going to have to wait until funding is available for them. And I think it's good for people to understand that, and our citizens understand that, to put pressure on Raleigh as we talk about solutions to our mess that is our road system, our road network in North Carolina.
Political reality, you better elect a governor that's got friends in Cabarrus County who can be named to the North Carolina Board of Transportation.
Mr. Privet?
political
I
reality.
have to say that, you know, we and you have had our moments, but I have to probably agree with you on that one, too.
Any other comments or discussion? Thank you. We're moving on to, that takes care of all the new business, if I'm correct, Mrs. Honeycutt. And we're now at the appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Do we have a, okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint
Second motion,
Terry
Mr. Chairman.
Triplett, Jane Colton, Kalisha Kennedy, Terry Stansel, Aaron Shue, Troy Barnhart,
Fantasia Peter.
Dawn Thomas, and, and Marta Mears, to a 2-year term, to appoint Ben Sharp, to complete an unexpired term, and to remove the 2 students and thank them for their service.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That takes care of all the business except for a closed session, that we, will be going into shortly. Is there any general comments by the board members? I'd like to close the evening with a couple of notes. One, prior to this meeting, we had a, presentation for the Southeast Cabarrus Park. And I would call on everybody that lives in, the Southeast Cabarrus, that we've heard your voices, that, providing parks or providing an, opportunity out there. We ask that you provide with comments about the park, and also anybody in Cabarrus County. There's a website. The website is http:// Southeast Park, SOUTHEASTPARK .publishpath.com /. That is a survey that gives us an idea, or gives the planner an idea to then present to the board of what the citizens are looking for in regards to the use of the park. Right now there is, just drawings and sketchings about opportunities for ball fields, for open space, for potentially mountain biking. There's boardwalk around the lake that's out there, or pond, the body of water that's out there. So I'd urge you to go to that website, http:// southeastpark.publishpath.com / to answer that, answer that survey. There's also going to be some public comments at different places, and that can be probably found on our website through the Parks and Rec Department aspect. If you'd look on there, if you wanted to come and speak to somebody personally. Number one, that's number one. Number two, last week Saturday we closed out this year's fair, and I believe it's the 57th annual fair, and I cannot thank Candace Story enough for the great job that she has done. This is her first fair. That was not Candace. It was Candace's first fair, and I will tell you is that through not having one before, she was a true veteran. Mary Ann Cooper did a tremendous job in helping and standing at arm's length when need to be, and standing beside her to help her guide her through. But I really commend Candace Story for all of her efforts. And lastly, last month we had a North Carolina Association of County Commissioners meeting in Hickory, which the majority of us were able to go to. And at the meeting, or at that weekend, we had opportunities to go to roughly 2 or 3 classes on Friday and Saturday. And I will tell you that I went to multiple meetings, and they were given presentation and planning about planning for the future, for how to work with your community, how to do things within the county that to help the county prosper. And there was not a meeting I went to that we were not already planning and not already doing those things. Many of the meetings, the county commissioners from other counties were telling us, well, how do we look to involve the community with land use plan? Or how do you look at preparing the community for new events, for emergency operation management, for just a myriad of things. Budgeting. A lot of counties are not budgeting on a 5-year basis. They're budgeting from one year to the next. So that I want to commend our staff for being so thoroughly involved and being the trendsetters. And it's refreshing to go to talk about it. Well, we're already doing that. Let's talk about something new. And other counties throughout the state, all other 100 counties, are having a very, very difficult time. Not only the small counties, but even the big counties. There was a lot of the big counties were still in the dark ages in regards to budgeting, and I commend Mrs. Dubois, I commend Mr. Downs, Mr. Marshall, and definitely Mr. Day for the foresight of the county staff. So thank you all very much. With that, is there any other comments?
I just wanted to say quickly, again, to recognize the two cadets that sang tonight, Maya Jones and Ronald Teeter. It was really nice to have them sing. And they just did it so well, and they were so at ease, and they were a little nervous before the cameras were rolling, but I think when the cameras got on them, they did great, and so I just wanted to recognize them again, because I did think they did a great job. Hope we can get some more singers
Good.
To come to us each month.
It will not be coming to the board to sing.
Oh no, I'm not volunteering.
That's why we
Me, I don't know about
staff
you.
thing out of that, you know.
And I want to also echo what you said. When I got up to the conference, there was one that I went to, and one of the presenters was from Virginia, and somebody else was from a school system, and I can't remember who the third one was, and I sat there, and they were going on about all these things that we should do, and I kept thinking, well, we're already doing that one. And I went to another one. I was thinking, well, we're already doing that one. I came here to learn something new, and it was things that we were already doing. So I hope that the community realizes that this staff is very progressive in their thinking and helping the commissioners with information, so that I do think that we're kind of leading the way in a lot of activities, and that speaks very well for the staff and for, I think, Cabarrus County as a whole, and I hope people realize that.
Mr. Poole, as I've attended these meetings 10 years, didn't get to go this year, that's always been my experience. They talk about things that we're already doing.
With that, I do want to congratulate everybody for all the work they're doing. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for coming. And with that, do we have a motion to go into closed session discussion? We have a motion, we have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed. Motion carries. We will be adjourning after our closed session meeting.
Mr. Chairman, can I announce that we're accepting applications for boards and committees?
We are always accepting applications for committees, so please look into it. Thank you.